That was Max Verstappen's 4th consecutive win here at Suzuka, and he's the first in history to do that. Perfection was the call from GP on the pit wall, and to be honest, I'm not sure you can really argue with that, but what more could McLaren have done to try and steal that one away from the world champion? Fist in the air as he came over the line for Max Verstappen, and a raise of the #1. That's exactly where he stands coming in to this post-race show here at the Japanese Grand Prix. It's a sight we have seen 64 times now. Max Verstappen with his hands aloft in the air as the winner here at the Japanese Grand Prix, and a winner once again in Formula One. Guys, we'll put it out there. It was not the most classic of races. The highlights reel may be a tad short, but for Max Verstappen, and indeed for how hard those drivers were hustling out there, it was a pretty incredible performance.
Oh, I mean, it's one he's going to be super, super proud of because it wasn't easy. Not only did he have to manage the pace of the two very quick McLarens behind him, because of these cool conditions, because of the resurface, we didn't see the crazy tire degradation that we normally see. Drivers weren't forced to kind of hold back a little bit, protect their tires. These guys were flat out at one of the fastest, most physical racetracks. I bet they all enjoyed it, minus the lack of passing, but being able to just push almost 10/10 for the whole Grand Prix. They all looked very tired in Parc Fermé there, but they all had big smiles on their faces.
I think Max Verstappen enjoyed the lack of passing in that race.
Yeah, fair.
But Oscar Piastri hinted at it in the cool-down room, didn't he? He was like, that was it, that was the highlights. Yeah. It's because they were pushing so hard. To them, it would have felt so intense. And we've got to acknowledge it's high-quality stuff. You were seeing 3 drivers going at it lap after lap after lap and not making big mistakes until Lando skipped the chicane at the very, very end. That was the only big mistake anyone made.
And that's just it. From watching, it just looks like a monotonous tours of this circuit. But to get that right, inch perfect, millimeter perfect, James, what does that take from a driver?
I mean, the mental concentration, the fortitude that you need, especially in Max's case, because he's driving his car, but also has to have one eye in the rear view mirror. You're constantly making adjustments. You know, you heard a bit of a panicked radio message early about shifting on the Red Bull. There was some issues there. That's sitting in the back of a driver's head as he gets through halfway into the last quarter of the race. When you're leading, you start hearing the weird sounds, and you know you can't afford a single lockup or a single running of the chicane, because yes, fine, nobody changed positions in the top 3, but it was 4 seconds covering them maybe for the entire Grand Prix. So you could not afford a single mistake at a track like this. That's not easy.
We were one lockup away, or one slight misjudgment into a corner, out of a corner from a change of position. We didn't get it. This one moment, though, could have been a pivotal point within the race, and that is the pit exit incident between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen, both pitting on the same lap, and we'll come to that in terms of what that meant strategically. But here, I mean, look how tight this is.
He forced me on, stole me alongside. I was easily alongside.
We're on it.
He drove himself into the grass.
Yeah, we know the game, Max. As you are.
Also, he pressed the pit limiter off too early. There's no way that was legal.
Understood, Max.
James, as ever, 2 racing drivers with vastly opposing views of what may have happened out there, but Lando actually said to you afterwards, didn't he? He probably conceded, look, I didn't have anywhere to go.
My favorite part about that is you hear both those radio messages in the moment when they know race control is listening, and chatting to them afterwards are both like, yeah, no, I mean, neither one of them believed either of what they were saying. Lando didn't believe Max drove him into the grass. Max didn't believe that Lando drove himself into the grass. They both knew the situation. Lando acknowledged Max isn't the kind of guy that's going to give you room in that situation or any situation. So they're just kind of both playing the game.
Yeah, also with Max saying, like, oh, there was no way that was legal, that exit. He was on there off the limiter too soon. Not the case at all. Someone tell you what, that was off the limiter all race, though, was this guy.
We're going to
Kimi, well done.
Kimi Antonelli, and Kimi, you are the youngest ever driver to lead a Formula One race, and you were the fastest man out there as well, after a monster stint as well at the start on the medium. What a race. Take us into the cockpit then, talk us through it. How hard were you pushing?
I was on the absolute limit. One lap I went even too far. I still have this tendency to use too much track. But no, overall, I really enjoyed out there. To be honest, I struggled a little bit the first few laps on the medium. But then as soon as I got in free air, the pace improved massively. And then I was able to extend, and then on the hard, I was just flat out all race.
Well, we saw the way your weekend is built. Obviously, practice was really disrupted, but how proud are you of the process you've been through? Because you got onto the pace in qualifying, and then, as we saw there, fastest lap of the race as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was a start of a difficult weekend, definitely. Was in pre-practice, I struggled a lot. But then I was able to progress. Qualifying was a really good step forward, and then the race was another good step forward. So definitely, it was a good feeling out there, and definitely looking forward to the next one.
Kimi, you're only a few races into your Grand Prix career. We talk about being driver fit, right? Being race fit. You can train in a gym all you want, but ultimately being in the car is what really gets you there. Normally in F1 races, you're backing off, you're taking care of tires in a race. Here, you were able to push flat out, fast racetrack. I gotta know, how's your neck?
It's quite sore.
Yeah.
The last lap, it was going in the S, it was going around. I couldn't hold it, but it was flat out. The incredible thing is that there was no management. It was a quali lap every lap, and of course, especially with the new surface in the first sector, is like full push, and physically it was quite tough.
Kimi, great stuff. Just very quickly, can I ask about Valtteri Bottas and Bono, how much support they've given you through this weekend?
Massive. I mean, Bono, he has so much experience, and he can guide me in every situation. And also Valtteri is a really good guide. He's been really nice to me, and especially in the weekend when I was struggling, was always there trying to give me advices, and definitely was a good help.
Great stuff. Brilliant to see you with another great result. Thank you so much, Kimi. We'll let you head on your way. I'm sure you've got much media to do. We're going to bring in our next driver if we can. He's talking at the moment to Jock Clear and to Jacques Villeneuve as well. Hopefully, in one moment, Ollie Behrman can wander into shot. Ollie, congrats. You converted that brilliant Q3, your first ever, into points for Haas. Take us into the cockpit. Kimi, your former teammates just said it was flat out. You were pushing every lap. You didn't have the tyre deg to manage, so it was full send.
Yes, it was.
How are you feeling?
I'll feel it tomorrow, definitely. No, it was quite different today with the lower temperatures. The tyres were performing really, really well. And even from the laps to grid, I told the guys, this is going to be a very different race to what we experienced in free practice on Saturday, where the degradation was apparent and you did have to manage the tyres. With these lower track temps, the surface of the tyre is just much cooler and you can push flat out. So it was like 50 quali laps, which is always fun. But I said, I'm going to feel it tomorrow.
Yeah, was it all about not making mistakes, both from your perspective, but also the team's too? Like, how nerve-wracking is it when it looks kind of stable from the outside, but the smallest mistake can really be very costly in track position?
Yeah, for sure. And I was, after a few laps, I realized we didn't have the pace to fight the guys in front, and the guys behind didn't really have the pace to fight me. My only fear was Tsunoda, who was obviously in a faster car coming through. But, it was really tough to overtake today, and I did tell them, let's not try and do anything crazy, not try and undercut too far, because at the end, I think this is our pace, this is where we should finish. So, it's a bit of a bad feeling to almost give up points, but I felt like, P10 is our maximum today, let's just hold on to it. And we did a really good job with strategy, with pit stop, and I was just managing my gaps and everything. So it was a bit boring, honestly, but that's okay.
You guys have been working on developing this car. You brought some new components to this race. Do you feel like you've made a genuine step on pace, or is this just a little bit circumstantial because of that brilliant lap in qualifying and the nature of the race?
Well, I mean, it was definitely tough to overtake today, but I didn't see anyone in my rearview mirrors that close, so it's not like I was out of position, let's say. Maybe by, there was an RB and a Williams, maybe that would have been faster than me if they qualified where they should have. So, yeah, I think we're not quite here on merit. I don't think we're the fifth fastest car at the moment, but if I can pull a clean qualifying lap and put the car there, then looks like we can hold on to it. Our race pace seems really strong, so a few more good quality laps and then we'll see where we are.
Ollie, what does that mean then for you in terms of the triple header? Because you've had a bite of the apple here. We've got 2 more races to come. They come thick and fast in this period. How are you feeling then looking ahead to Bahrain with where you feel the car may be at and where you yourself physically are as well?
Well, first I'll go home and have a few days off. And then we go to Bahrain and Jeddah. These are 2 tracks that I've driven in F1 before, which is not something I could say about the previous three events. So, that gives me a slight upper hand, and I'm really, really excited to get back to Jeddah for obvious reasons. And yeah, just really excited for the next 2 races. I think Bahrain will be nice to go back to a track that I've done before, and then Jeddah is actually a track that I've raced, so it'll be like I'm not a rookie in that race, which is cool.
That's very cool. Well, thank you so much, Ollie. Well done to you. We're going to hear from your boss now. Here's Ai Komatsu.
Bye.
Home points for Ayo Komatsu, a home point for Haas's technical suppliers Toyota. Ayo, you must be very pleased with that.
Yeah, it was a hard fought 1 point, but yeah, very pleased.
How well has Ollie done this weekend? He's looked very mature in the car. You must be impressed.
Absolutely. Obviously, Shanghai, he had a very good weekend, and Suzuka is pretty technical, difficult track, and they had lots of objectives in terms of assessing flow, etc., etc. But Friday, again, every single lap, he was faultless, and then he turned it up for qualifying, and then today, again, really, really good race.
Considering you've had an up and down season, which seems strange to say after only 3 races, the fact you were coming here looking to change the floor and get the car more stable, you must be pleased with the points given all of that context.
Absolutely. I think to start off is to get this modification to the floor for race 3 here. That's a reaction from race 1 Melbourne. So I'm really, really happy with the speed of reaction, everybody's effort to get the 2 floors here, and then that worked. So that is a huge statement, and also gives a confidence to everyone in the team. And then to finish that off with that strong qualifying performance and point in the race is amazing.
And is there a bonus for Ollie for getting you a point at your home race?
No, honestly, just fans here are amazing, and then like you said, we've got a technical partnership with Toyota, so it's really nice to be able to finish with top 10.
Nice job, well done today.
Thank you.
Love that. The cheeky final question there from Christian Hugel about the inner workings, financial workings of the Haas Formula One team. But yeah, great news for Ollie Behrman, of course, to pick up that extra point. And like he said, he had to really hang on to it through that. For Haas, then, where do you think they're going to be heading into Bahrain and Saudi? Because it seems to sort of lurch from track to track with where they're at.
I think they're going to be more competitive in Bahrain because we went testing there and the issue they had with the floor wasn't visible in testing in Bahrain. So, okay, they've addressed that weakness that they saw in Melbourne, but obviously the corners and the characteristics of the Bahrain circuit did not really show up that weakness, and I think that should mean that the car is stronger there.
Hinch for Haas?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think Ollie makes a great point. They're not the 5th fastest car. It was an exceptional lap that got them up there. The nature of the race, fine. They weren't at the front of a train holding up a bunch of cars, but still, it's going to be important to be able to maximize that car potential. This is a tricky place. It's a tricky qualifying. If it's a place like Bahrain where everyone's got a lot of laps, it's a little bit harder to have those sort of standout performances. So I see your point. I don't disagree with the point, but I'm still not sure that the improvements they've made are enough to get them genuinely into the points.
But you've got to look at Ocon as well on the other side of the garage.
Well, exactly.
Actually, where is the performance of this car?
Right.
Is it where Ollie Behrman has managed to put it for this weekend? Esteban Ocon is adrift. Something with the setup of the car he thinks not quite suiting him.
We have seen some drivers struggling a bit more in that midfield, though. We're talking about it pre-race, weren't we? Like a 10th of a second, a small mistake, and that's you out of position. And as you say, really tough to overtake here. Bahrain, very different. You will settle down to where your car pace is, likely in that race, unless it's a highly strategic one, because you can definitely overtake there. So I think we will get a better read on basically the whole grid in Bahrain. Probably the first time we can go after practice, yeah, we think we know where people are stacking up.
I know we can stop speculating, but we'll continue to
Because now
speculate
we've got 3
somewhat.
races, which is so many more than 2 races to
now
start
we've
making
got
our...
all the data we need. Ocon, of course, one of those starting on the hard tyre alongside Hamilton and Bortoletto. A few little things that people were playing with in strategy. Liam Lawson trying to go long on the medium to see what opportunities he could prize open. Didn't work out for him, though. P17, but look, got his head down, completed a Grand Prix distance. Important to do.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised, actually, that we didn't see more people on the soft at the start of that race. We saw how easy it was to get to the end on the hard tyre. That was kind of the info from Pirelli, so I thought you'd go aggressive on the soft, you can make your stop, and then you can push that hard to the end. Because we didn't get that, you did get that status quo of everyone kind of just following each other at similar pace. Obviously, Lawson had a bit of a snap on that first lap. It looked really close between him and Yuki Tsunoda that let Yuki ahead. And then from there on, I just wonder, he obviously no one could move forward, but as he's learning that car, he struggled to do so as well.
On the other side of the garage, Isaac Hadjar. What a performance. Look, he was overtaken by Lewis Hamilton, who started on that hard tyre, and he's a 7-time world champion versus a rookie. I think we can forgive him that one, but I mean, what a weekend for Isaac, and for what's been a pretty eventful start to his Formula One season, and one in which he's had 2 different teammates in 3 races.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's really had the gamut of emotions, hasn't he? You think back to Australia and how devastated he was to not even make it to the starting grid in that wet weather, to the bounce back in China, the issues he had in qualifying here, which he overcame to get into Q3, and then a pretty faultless race, really. I mean, yeah, you lose 1 place to a 7-time champion in a much superior car, fine, we'll give you that. But no, overall, I mean, he's got a lot to be proud of. And the team, I think, can be super, super impressed. Some instability on the other side of the garage, not of the team's doing, of the parent company's doing, but through it all, Hajar's just keeping his head down, doing what he needs to do, and for a rookie, just performing very, very well.
Some issues, though, with both Lawson and the water in the recon lap, and then also for Hajar as well, his seat not being fixed. So sort of processes within the team still to be kind of really ironed out, to be operating at this high level. They have, though, turned the promise into points this time out after missing out on strategy in China. We do have some race radio to bring you from Isaac Hajar over the finish line. Let's take a listen to this one.
Grazie ragazzi. Yeah, my first points in F1 in Japan. Not bad. Thank you. Really well executed. Really, really well. Yeah, not far from the top guys, to be honest, huh?
Not far at all. We're in the fights.
I love that little commentary. Yeah, I'm not actually that far from the top, guys, am I? I like the sound of that. First points in Formula One, a brilliant, brilliant achievement. And when he says in Japan as well, you can sense that for every driver, this is bucket list stuff, James.
It is, and it's a place that can separate guys sometimes. And we saw it in qualifying. We saw some cars out of place on the back of drivers doing an exceptional job around a particularly difficult lap. Hajar being one of them, and then to just kind of run a faultless race like that, collect your first points in a place that the drivers really covet. It's a special day for him.
One of the things that's really impressed me about Isaac Hajar, I spoke to him pre-season actually for an interview, and he's very demanding of his teams in junior Formula. His team bosses used to say that's what came out at Campos last year in the Formula 2 Championship. But he said, yeah, I'm going to keep that up in Formula 1, because if you perform well and you're showing that kind of leadership, people will rally around you and they'll believe in you, they'll back you. Well, we just heard it there, the way he's thanking the team, the way he's talking to them and saying, thanks for that, look how close we are, firing them up again. They're like, hey, maybe we can go and get some more up there. He's showing great confidence, great maturity, great mental strength as well after that Melbourne start. Really, really impressive start for him.
And you can hear it when he comes on the show here, and we're looking over our shoulder because he's over there. We're hoping he's going to come on our show in just a moment, actually. When he does come here and we're like, you're P7 in Japan, what a brilliant qualifying. He's like, nah, I left a 10th in the chicane.
Yeah.
And you're like, Isaac, you're a rookie. First time here in Suzuka, but the hunger, the drive, the ambition. Don't forget, of course, he was F2 runner-up in the final race as well, with a heartbreaking moment where he stalled off the line. All his dreams disappeared in one, lose it to Gabriel Bortoleto. And for him to then come into Formula One, crash in the formation lap, there's so much emotion there, but he's finding a way to channel it, James.
What's interesting is, I mean, you mentioned his confidence. He definitely does not lack that. We've seen that. And when you come from the junior categories into Formula One, a lot of drivers will tell you, you kind of have to recalibrate your expectations a bit, right? When you're coming up, you're used to being in the top 3 every year in every championship at every race you go to. And look, a rookie's not going to come in, even in the best car necessarily, and be fighting in the top 3 immediately. So you have to get used to seeing your name P14, P12. When I talk to Isaac, it doesn't sound like he's really done that. He seems upset with a 7th. Like, he understands that this is kind of where the car's at, but like, yeah, no, we should be here. I want to keep going. Oh, the lead guys aren't that far in front. He seems to have clocked his expectations a little less than maybe some of the other rookies, but it's working for him. Sometimes that overconfidence can actually bite you, but for right now, he's killing it.
Okay, Christian Hugel, buzzing about the paddock 4, has caught up with Helmut Marko.
Well, Helmut Marko, firstly, a word on Isaac Hajar. How impressed have you been with him this weekend?
I was impressed since the first time jumped in the car. His speed surprised all of us, but also the coolness which he showed, and fortunately he got points. I think he would have had points when the strategy would have been correct the last 2 races. But generally we are really happy to have such a new talent in our team.
Could anyone else other than Max Verstappen have won that race today in the Red Bull?
No, it's just him. Unbelievable. 53 laps, absolutely no mistake. and also tactical. As soon as Norris is coming nearer or near the DRS zone, both 2/10. Unbelievable.
He wasn't bad in qualifying either, was he?
That was also a magic round.
A word on Yuki Tsunoda. How do you think he did in his first race in the Red Bull team?
I mean, he lost out by qualifying. He made a mistake in turn 1, but in all the other sessions he was pretty near 2 to 3 tenths to Max, so that's what we are looking for.
And did Liam settle back into RB as you'd have liked him to this weekend? How do you rate his performance?
Also qualifying was a problem, but I think he will recover, and I hope in the next couple of races that he also makes it in the points.
Appreciate your time. Thank you, Helmut.
Thank you.
Well, from one leader in Red Bull to another. Christian Horner now joins us. Helmut Marko there saying nobody else but Max Verstappen could have won. Congratulations to you and the team.
Very much indeed.
It was 53 near faultless laps. It was
Yes.
Max at his very best, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Helmut mentioned 50 laps there, but
Well, maybe
he missed out
he
the
paraphrased,
other
maybe.
three, which were phenomenal. And you know, as he rightly says, yeah, Max has been absolutely imperious this weekend. He is. I think the majority of the damage was done in that qualifying yesterday. But it was a flat-out race today, and there was no tire saving. It was all about, you know, everything you've got, and not a single mistake. And you know, he had a car to work with, you know, as well, and keep the McLarens behind him.
When Max is in that sort of position, though, and the McLarens are that close and that quick,
Yep.
do you ever have any nerves on the pit wall, or do you have full faith that Max is not going to put a wheel out of line?
Well, of course. I mean, there was so little overtaking in that race that it was going to take something Herculean or a big mistake to get, you know, the McLarens to make a pass. It was all about being inch perfect. Max knew that. He was quick where he needed to be. The last chicane, turn 11, they couldn't get anywhere near. He kept them just out of the DRS. And you know, we had at the first pit stop, we didn't get the front wing adjustment that we wanted into the car, and so that compromised his second stint with a bit more understeer than he'd have probably liked. But again, playing with the tools, working with his engineering team, you know, to help him with his diff settings and so on, to help that balance. Again, a phenomenal team performance to extract every ounce of performance from the car this weekend.
Well, let's talk about the pit stop that you guys did. First of all, you avoided the dummy. They said they were calling Lando in a lap early.
Yeah.
You didn't take the bait.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense because you were going to come out in a whole load of traffic.
Right, and then we come to the actual pit stop itself. Yeah. Were you surprised, first of all, that they pit the same lap as you? And then what was the delay? You came in with about a second advantage, and then you left, obviously, side by side.
Yeah. Well, after they pitted Oscar first, it was clear that they were going to pit Lando the following lap. So we pitted to cover. And this weekend, the two #1 mechanics that are twins on the car, unfortunately, their dad has not been well, so they've gone back to the UK. So we got the reserve guys, you know, on the pit stop. And we had a slightly slower stop than would have been ideal. And that allowed Lando, thankfully his stop wasn't stellar either, allowed Lando to get close, but he was never alongside. So I think the stewards made the right decision in that.
When we look at the overall picture of this weekend, though, we came into it looking at the driver choice you'd made, the change there, and obviously big hype around Honda with the livery. Could you have imagined the race going so well with the #1 car?
Well, look, I mean, we've run the car in Honda livery this weekend as a thank you to Honda for, you know, the incredible partnership that we've had so far. And, you know, let's not forget we've still got another, 21 races to go. But to win with a car celebrating them and, you know, to do it here in Japan as well is a big result and a big thank you to them.
Christian, let's talk Yuki, because we didn't see too much movement at all through that race in terms of overtaking and shuffling up the order with strategy. Yuki managed to gain a couple of places. How's he been since, if you've spoken to him, or how does he feel that race went?
I haven't spoken to him yet, but I mean, he made one pass and then we undercut Pierre Gasly. His pace was good, but he was looking at the back of Fernando Alonso's rear wing for basically that entire second stint. So, you know, qualifying dictated 90% of those finishing positions today. I think he's learned a lot out of this weekend. He's given great feedback. He's fitted into the team, and his time will come. And I have to take my hat off to Isaac Hadjar as well. Then in you know, a great performance today, and you know, good to see Liam going well as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of where you're putting your priority, with the issues you have had with the second seat and getting the most performance you can from that, the driver championship Is that firmly your priority now? Max Verstappen is 1 point behind Lando Norris. Are you still keeping an eye on constructors?
Well, look, constructors is, of course, is important. It's a long year, and you need 2 cars in the fight. And, you know, we want to get Yuki up to speed as quickly as we can so that, I mean, today it was Max versus 2 McLarens. You know, strategically, they may have let us off the hook today. You know, you've got to have another gun in the fight. Excuse me.
Can I quickly ask you before we let you go? Would you have done anything differently today if you were McLaren on that pit wall?
It's so difficult to tell how tyres are behaving, so it's impossible to judge, you know, the calls that they made. I think the only call that we correctly didn't react to was the dummy that they tried to sucker us with. But yeah, they were faster. They were very fast today, and different drivers of theirs were fast at different times.
Thanks very much, Christian. We'll let
Thank
you go.
you.
We're going to bring in Isaac Hadjar, actually, who's alongside. Isaac then coming in. Come on in, Isaac. Congratulations to you. Well done. A P8 out there, your first points in Formula One. Well done from Christian Horner, and you've done it in Japan. What does it mean to you?
Yeah, it feels good. Finally, first points, and honestly, I think it's the best place to score your first ones. It's my favorite track, so yeah, definitely it was on purpose, you know, in Melbourne, Shanghai, to wait for this one. That's why I didn't score points. I was just waiting for Suzuka. So yeah.
Take us into the cockpit then, because we've heard from a number of drivers that it was pretty much full gas in there, that you weren't getting the tyre deg, so you had to push 53 quali laps.
Yeah, exactly. 53 quali laps, and I'm really tired. Neck was just flying around towards the end.
Little battle here with Carlos Sainz as well, getting your elbows out.
Yeah, there was a decent move. Yep.
Yeah, when Carlos tries to cover you, I think. Does it look a little bit sketchy behind the wheel there?
Oh yeah, especially like, you know, I'm still not used to like race this close with those cars, and the dirt here is just massive. Like I went to the left, and the car just wouldn't turn. But yeah, it was a cool one.
Is that the sort of thing you have to learn quickly in terms of mistakes that can be made? Because, yeah, from there it looks like, oh, was it Carlos crowding you towards the outside of the track? You're saying it's actually the car not responding as you want it to.
Yeah, it's one more factor to take into account when you're stepping in Formula One. But, yeah, lesson learned, and we move on, I guess.
Well, we heard a little bit of radio before the race even started on your recon laps that there was an issue with the seat. Was the seat loose?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I have no idea. This is we unlocked a new issue.
Right.
So
you've had a bunch of issues in the cockpit so far this weekend.
You know.
Yeah. But they got it sorted. No issues in the race.
This was no issue in the race.
Good.
And Isaac, we're looking ahead now. You are a point scorer in Formula One officially. You enter the next 2 races as such: Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. What is the thinking there? Because from our point of view, looking in as the Racing Bulls, a very, very fast car.
Yeah, it's definitely fast, especially on one lap. I still feel like maybe on the long run we're not as good, so we need to dig deep to improve that. But honestly, with the momentum we have, we still want to fight for points in the coming races.
Isaac, we're thrilled for you. Thanks for coming on the show as ever.
Guys.
Congratulations, a point scorer in Formula One and in Japan as well. Well done to Isaac Hadjar there. And from Racing Bulls to the second Red Bull C, let's hear from Yuki Tsunoda.
Yuki, you made up a few spots there, P12 at the end of the race. How are you feeling about that day?
Mixed feeling. Obviously, as a result, it's not the result I wanted. At least I wanted to finish in the points this weekend. So, yeah, I think the qualifying, I just have to do better. I think the pace was there. I just, stuck in traffic whole run. So, yeah, it was pretty frustrating, but at the same time, I feel like I learned a lot of things in the 52 laps, I guess. I think I learned more than anything, so it's still positive for that. Yeah, so I'm excited for the next one, but at the same time, it's a home Grand Prix, you know. It's a once in a year, so considering that was a bit tough.
You touched on it there, first full race distance in the car, first full weekend in the car. So what are the key takeaways now as we head to Bahrain and this triple header carries on?
Reset, and I'm sure I feel different thing. I'm sure compared to what I was feeling, FP1, in terms of car, in terms of confidence. I think naturally it'll be better. Naturally I'll understand more about the car. Yeah. So I'm excited, like I said, for next one, but just have to better with the qualifying.
Oh, you're gutted for Yuki Tsunoda, aren't you? Because he came in with the relatively modest aim, really, of just saying, I want to get points. I want to get points on home soil. I was P10 here before. I want to go one better. Not to be today, but in a race that saw very little movement, and starting outside the top 10 made it a real uphill battle. But lessons learned for Yuki Tsunoda. One race under his belt. He now resets. Back toward the front of the race then, and I think the questions we had for Christian Horner then about the McLaren strategy. For both of you, what could McLaren have done differently today? What would you have done differently on that pit wall, James? Or indeed, if you were one of the drivers feeding back?
Two different questions. I'm never going to say what I would have done differently necessarily, because it's so hard in those moments. You're making those decisions under pressure, split seconds make the difference. But what was fascinating to me was almost the lack of a decision, it seemed like. For me, by not even attempting the swap and allowing Oscar the opportunity, because at that phase, it did look like Oscar was significantly quicker. He was running much closer to Lando than Lando was to Max. We know how hard it is to follow in dirty air here. To be in that gap, you've got a pace advantage. The fact that they didn't do it, to me, tells me that they're prioritizing the Drivers' Championship over the Constructors, in the sense that by not even allowing Oscar the opportunity to maybe get in front of Max, which then puts a bigger buffer in between him and Lando. Lando earned that second place. Oscar wasn't getting him on merit. And so if the team got involved, all of a sudden that's a 10-point swing in Oscar's favor from the driver's standpoint. And to me, the reason they didn't want to do that was the politics down the road of trying to sort out points to drivers. It almost seems like you're favoring Oscar this early in the campaign. So to me, it seems like a bit of a statement that we've got such a good car. We've got two great drivers. The Constructors' Championship, we can afford to sacrifice a few points if it means we're not going to get into a sticky situation with our two-star drivers.
But it's funny, they're talking about politics down the road. I agree with you. I feel like the impression was they were hesitant, they were cautious, they just didn't want to make a call. But they're going to hit trouble further down the road with these two drivers and that car. It's coming. They've got to deal with it. They've talked about how good it is to have those two drivers, the strength of that lineup. Well, this was the time to say, okay, we're going to say, go and fight it out, sure. Or, Oscar's going to have a chance to win this race and win it for the team, and it is a team sport still. And Lando, if he doesn't get ahead, we give you that place back. But if he does, don't forget, that actually helped Lando's championship picture against Max. Right now, we're talking about Lando and Max 1 point apart. Well, Max wouldn't have gained as many points on Lando. And there is an outside threat. Easier for McLaren to manage an inside threat than an outside one. So I just feel like they were caught between a rock and a hard place and decided, let's just not make a decision. And I don't think that's going to work all year long.
But I think a lack of decision-making is a decision. You're deciding not to take action, in a sense, aren't you? And I think that was one of the issues we saw on the pit wall last year, and that we felt when we saw the race in China, where they executed it so efficiently, so directly. Perhaps this was a McLaren of 2025. The McLaren last year may not have been able to win China, for example. I mean, I don't know. It's all hindsight. Hindsight's a wonderful, beautiful thing, but I think what more could McLaren have done will be a question echoing around this paddock, and certainly in that hospitality, and perhaps even with the two drivers. Here's Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris.
Oscar, a podium for your birthday, but I get the feeling you wanted a little bit more out of that. When we did hear the radio message, I think I have the pace to get Max there at the end. So can you talk us through that from your side?
Yeah, I mean, I said what I thought. I felt like I was very fast today, just I didn't have the track position to do much with it, unfortunately. Unfortunately, that's the result of qualifying. But yeah, I think there's a lot of positives from today. It's been a track that's not been great for me in the races the last couple of years, and today I think I felt like I had very, very strong pace. So I'll take that forwards. Yes, the result's not quite what I wanted, but yeah, there's still a lot of satisfaction for today.
You touched on it there, still taking plenty of confidence heading into Bahrain next weekend, chance to go at it again.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I would rather be lacking the results and having the pace than getting the results and struggling for the pace, that's for sure. So, obviously in a perfect world, I'd love to have both, but, it feels like I'm on the right track. I feel like I've put together three good weekends to start the year, and I want to keep that rolling. So, even though the result's not what I wanted, there's still a lot of positives.
Thanks, Elsa. Lando looks super close out there, P2 at the end of it. How do you reflect on that one?
I mean, not a lot happened really, did it? Just difficult to follow and even harder to overtake. So, yeah, not a lot. I don't know what else we could have done really. When you look at a race like this, you just think we'd probably lost out yesterday and not doing a good enough job. Do I think we're a little bit quicker? Yes, but I was gaining in the straights, losing in the corners, so I don't think our pace was honestly that different in the end of the day. And Max didn't make any mistakes, so nothing to capitalize on. So, yeah, not the most exciting race, but still some good points.
Did see that moment on the grass exiting the pits. Could you talk us through that one from your perspective as well?
Yeah, I mean, the guys did a really good pit stop, much quicker than the others, so gave us a good chance. And obviously I was alongside Max, but he had the line, he was in the correct position and I wasn't, so of course I tried to stay alongside. But just some racing.
Thanks, Lando.
I guess for McLaren, nothing more that could be done today. They go on to Bahrain and hope and see what more they can do there against the very might of Max Verstappen. Let's hear from your race winner.
Max, big congrats, 4 in a row. You must be feeling delighted with that.
Yeah, for sure. 4 in a row, of course, is great, but very different scenarios compared to, I would say, the last few years here. Today was key to start first. They were trying to get into my DRS, but it's very hard to follow around here. I think also the track temp today helped us. Less overheating from the tires naturally when the track is cooler. Just incredibly happy with this result.
Touched on it there. Can you take us into the cockpit? I mean, how much pressure were you feeling from the McLarens behind? And we did also see that moment exiting the pits. Could we just get your take on that as well?
I was quite calm. I mean, I've been in this position before, but just trying to focus on my own laps, trying to not make any mistakes, making sure that the balance was drivable. Because, of course, throughout the stint, the tire life, it definitely changes the balance a bit, front to rear. But yeah, we managed everything really well, of course, she's very happy with this result, and then of course with that pit lane thing, it was tight.
Thanks, Max. Well done.
Pure Max Verstappen at his very best. A classy performance from him today. And what can Lando Norris do but shake his hand and say, well done. And on to Bahrain, the fight will go. I mean, what more can we say on Max Verstappen? We said so much after qualifying. We're saying it again today. Sometimes he brings something magical out of what was actually a really difficult position that Red Bull found themselves in coming here.
And it is a tough car to drive. It's why we talked up that qualifying lap so much, because it gave him the chance today to win that race, and he went and took that chance. But again, we saw today with the McLarens on his tail how close it's going to be. That was driver making the difference, and that is the sort of thing that Max is earning his big money for.
It's amazing to me how often we talk about exceptional performances for Max Verstappen. We talked about it all in 23, a lot of 24, and already in 25, he's been the star of the show in a lot of ways. From the car side, it's been the McLaren, but from the driver's side, hands down, it's been Max.
He is now 1 point behind Lando Norris in the World Championship as well. It doesn't get much better, does it, as we hurtle towards the next 2 races, first of which is Bahrain. Let's take a look at the schedule for the meat of this triple header sandwich. Okay, 2:15 then for FP1 and 5:45 for FP2. Don't forget, a slightly offset schedule in Bahrain, a dusk race. FP3 building up to that one at 3:15. Pre-qualifying, and then of course qualifying, that's at 7 p.m. Your post-quali show immediately afterwards. The pre-race show, 5 p.m. and the Bahrain Grand Prix starting at 6 p.m. and all of the reaction in the post-race show. And I can tell you right now, it's looking very, very hot in Bahrain at the moment. It's looking early 30s throughout the course of the weekend. Lucky
Finally.
us. I know, we get a bit of heat, right?
Well, I went for testing as well, and it was freezing, it was raining, it was...
I left a cool, rainy, cold, miserable UK winter thinking I'm going to get some sun here.
Yeah.
8 degrees in Bahrain at testing it felt like anyway.
That does mean, though, that what we saw in testing and the competitive order there in Bahrain won't necessarily translate directly into what we get for the race. But it won't, because it's very different conditions, much harder on the tyres. We saw Ferrari being fairly strong during testing at times, and at others not being right there. I wonder how they'll go in the heat. They had a good weekend here in the end. Charles Leclerc, we've kind of overlooked him a bit, but his qualifying lap 2 yesterday was very, very good, and he backed it up by holding off the 2 Mercedes drivers, so I think he'll be really pleased with his day's work.
Yeah, for sure, and Lewis obviously getting that one place over, and yes, Isaac Hadjar, but one of the moves.
One of the few people to actually move up. So no, yeah, again, I think there's still a lot of positives to take. Issues in qualifying, balance issues in qualifying. If he can get those dialed in, I think his race pace is quite good. Like you say, Charles did an absolutely incredible job in qualifying, just pulling that thing up where it shouldn't have been. Bahrain could suit their car. It could be a good weekend for them.
Yeah, we shall see. We shall see. Many unknowns heading to Bahrain still, and the 4th race of the season. Chris Medland, thank you very much for joining us on your first weekend on F1 TV. We've loved having you along. Thanks so much for all of your insights. Welcome back to you as well, sir. Great to have you along for the 2025 season. Don't forget, you can catch the cool down room mid-week as well as we look back on all things Japanese Grand Prix and look ahead to the Bahrain Grand Prix. So do catch that on F1 TV. Now, Formula One, as you guys all know, is a huge family, and behind the scenes there are many working so tirelessly. We've heard the very, very sad news that Matt Willows has passed away. Now, he played a fundamental part in developing the technology on these Formula One cars that brings you so much at home. He will be sorely missed.